All right, so I'm here right now with the organizers of the Roosevelt Island Residents Association and several young activists from last year's Black Lives Matter March. And tonight they commemorated actually the 1-year anniversary of George Floyd's murder. So I was wondering what tonight meant to you guys. Joie, can you tell me a little bit about what it meant to you today?
Yeah, especially as like a young Black person in America, and honestly, it gives me hope that these conversations are starting to be had, and as much as, you know, we have not made as much progress as we wanted, but the fact that conversations are slowly starting to happen it encourages me.
Okay,
for the future.
Like they said, we're hopeful. You know, we've made progress since last year. We'll make progress next year. Only up from here.
And what about living on Roosevelt Island? Do you feel support from the Roosevelt Island community for your goals?
The only thing about being on the island is you don't see these things happening. Obviously, being here, we're a lot more sheltered, which is why we need to have these conversations. But it doesn't happen as much here. Like, we're relatively safe in our little 2-mile radius. And as soon as you go across the tram, it changes.
Yeah, but I think it's beautiful. I think it's beautiful that as a community we were able to come together and recognize that, you know, these awful things that are going on and these injustices, and we were able to, as a community, come together. And to me, that was really powerful.
Okay, Erin and Ike, you guys were one of the organizers for RERA. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us what this meant to you?
I think it was important. First of all, the murder of George Floyd and so many other unarmed people needs to continue to be in conversations. It needs to be out there. I truly believe in action, that we need to continue to keep pressure on. For us today, inspired by the actions that they had done last year, which we were unable to attend, we wanted to do something in conjunction together in order to express, as she said, the community coming together in support, almost like handing over, you know, to the next activist the way forward. You know, being part of that and sharing that experience, it meant that our community was not only able to acknowledge that this is a reality, but start to work together to fight against it. Okay. It was also RERA finally coming back and being able to all of us. This is RERA, the residents.
So Ike, you led a chant at the beginning announcing the names of people that had been killed in the past.
Well, that was just you know, I mean, you just Google in something like, you know, unarmed people killed by NYPD, and all kinds of stuff comes up. You can Google it, and I just did a selective. These are just a selection of people that have been murdered, unarmed, completely innocent people where there was no justice given. I've been involved in struggles like this since I was a teenager, since I was the age of some of these young activists. So it certainly gives me great satisfaction to see a new generation of young people becoming conscious and engaging in a struggle. And the fact that we have a community here that, as these two young sisters just said, like the fact that we are that on Roosevelt Island we've been able to push back because of the past struggles that took place 8 years ago, to win some advances that create more space and constitutional policing. But it's a constant struggle because the foundations of society are such that the police, especially when you have economic and social crises that are intensifying in the United States, the police become the front line of defense for a system in crisis. But you can't push them back. We have been pushing them back, I think, around the country. I think police departments are more on the defensive now. I think that people mobilize and they hit the streets. They're not intimidated as much as in the past, so progress has been made.
Okay, and Frank, here on Roosevelt Island, the Public Safety Department has been engaged in what they're calling community policing. What do you think about that?
Well, in fact, I like it so much that in my testimony to the New York State Attorney General last year, I cited that Roosevelt Island should be an exemplar for all of the things that have happened here, both bad and good. This is a model community for how it's done right. If I can just say one thing about the past, 8 years or something like that, it's really great to see the coherent community perspective with, largely the same ideals. And I would say, as someone who's grown up in the civil rights movement, I'll just say, I thought we were making progress for many years, and I feel like in the past couple of years, I didn't realize how fragile all the progress was, that we made the past 50 years. So anyway, but I'm glad to be here on Roosevelt Island because this really is a model for elsewhere.
Absolutely. Like what you were saying, public safety works because it wasn't built on racism.
Well,
The system will never work. You can't fix a system built on racism, made on racism. You can't fix it.
Back because Guerra was racist, it was
Right.
unconstitutional, and it was brutal.
You kind of have
And
to
we
pull the rug
stopped-
from under,
We
though.
stopped that
One of
Yeah.
my
by
heroes
pushing them
is,
back and
Right.
demanding that it stop.
Well, that's the
great,
thing. At least with the police department, it's so far widespread now, and it's so deeply rooted in racism.
It's totally-
Even like.
System is.
and
Even becoming a
class
police
oppression.
officer, they
With
don't teach you anything about like de-escalation or how to respond to people of color or mental illness. And like, I don't know, I don't think it'll ever be fixed. I say in the next 100 years, it's gonna burn down.
Well,
Maybe not in our lifetime, but in the next one, that's my prediction, realistically.
I
All right,
could
well, let's
quote,
hope you guys can change that.
I hope so.
If I could quote Malcolm X, one of my heroes, he said, "A chicken cannot produce a duck egg." And by that he meant that the system that is based on exploitation,
Right.
based on oppression,
And guilty doesn't mean you should be. Even if you're guilty,
yeah, that is
even
not-
if you're guilty,
not
even
be
if
death
every
sentence.
single one of these people were guilty, guilt is not a death wish. We've all done illegal things.
Today meant a lot to me because I went to the first protest that happened last year, and now I'm at this one today, and I just wanted to, have a reflect on this past year. So it really does mean a lot to see, what changes, if there were changes, if there weren't changes, to just evaluate, think about what has happened over the past year, and not celebrate, but think about these moments, these people who have died because of what is going on, and just keep them in our hearts and in our heads, and just think about and pray about them for the rest of our lives. This is a time to remember, especially for people of color and just people out there, just to think about what has happened.
How about being like a young Roosevelt person living on Roosevelt Island?
Huh?
As a young person living on Roosevelt Island, what do you think about the Roosevelt Island community getting together to gather and remember?
I feel like this was really nice. I mean, a lot of people, they came today, and I feel like our island right now, I think we're doing a good job as a community. There's always stuff to work on, but
Great. Thank you very much.